A woman joyfully welcomes her husband and son home. The son suddenly trips and falls to the ground. The bewildered father quickly picks up his son. Soon after, he too collapses. The father and son are the king and the sole heir of the Semigalia kingdom. 3 chieftains are contenders for the throne, an elderly man and 2 young men. The elderly man appears wise and respected, while the 2 young men harbor hidden agendas. The dying king is not confused. It is unclear who poisoned them, but it could be one of the chieftains. Therefore, the throne must be passed to an unexpected person. Nameja, a man who dreams of becoming a sailor, is entrusted with this responsibility. He never imagined he would inherit the throne. For over 20 years, he has shared the same blood as the king. The king is his uncle. Nameja suddenly transforms from an ordinary man into the king of Semigalia. With a bewildered expression, he dons the king's ring and accepts the cheers of his people. His girlfriend struggles to accept his sudden change in status.
King Nameja! King Nameja!
Now, King Nameja.
In the 13th century, Rome covets the southeastern coast of the Baltic Sea, the Semigalia region. However, the Semigalians are not easy to conquer. Even the fierce Vikings avoid confronting them. At this time, a young man named Max volunteers to the Pope. He aims to conquer the Semigalia region and become its king. Max, the Pope's illegitimate son, sets out with a small group of crusaders. Max first arrives at Sarma Island. The old king there has passed away, and the guests include the king of Semigalia and his son. Max poisons their drinks by switching their cups. Timed perfectly, the poison takes effect as they return home. The woman, heartbroken, commits suicide. The people send off the former king and prince in a final ceremony. The queen also takes her own life. Following her husband and son, the crowd throws their torches onto the ship, setting it ablaze. The new king, Nameja, is unaware that Max is the one who killed his uncle and cousin. That evening, after the feast, a girl is mysteriously murdered. The dagger in her stomach belongs to Pitto, the new king of Sarma Island. Max uses this opportunity to accuse Pitto of being involved in the king and prince's deaths. The enraged crowd supports Nameja's first military campaign as king. Max of promising to bring the crusaders to assist. They split into 2 groups, planning to attack from both sides. As they reach the back door, Nameja realizes that Pitto would not leave the dagger behind if he were the killer. The evidence does not look real. His companions urge him to focus on the battle. Inside, they find the city empty, except for a few black pigs roaming the streets. They meet Max and the crusaders in the square. Max draws his sword, and the crusaders attack. Nameja orders his men to form a shield wall. Using the gaps in the shields, the Semigalians fiercely fight back. A second wave of crusaders joins the battle, but Nameja employs a wall tactic, trapping and killing the crusaders. Seeing the battle turn against them, Max and his remaining men flee through a small door. Nameja and his men followed but were trapped by the lowered iron gates. Archers above ready their bows, leaving Nameja and his men with no escape. Captured in his first battle, Nameja is taken to a ship. A soldier demands his gold necklace, but Nameja throws it into the air, distracting the guard. He then grabs the guard's dagger and kills him. Other guards rush in, but Nameja kicks them away and uses a flying knife to finish them off. He retrieves his necklace, a gift from his wife, which he cannot afford to lose. Max intended to send Nameja to Rome but is shocked to find Nameja has returned to the enemy camp to rescue his brothers. After dispatching the guards, a bald, bearded man shoots an arrow behind Nameja. Disillusioned with this incapable man, he chose to betray and join Nameja's camp. Using a land sailing technique, Nameja takes a shortcut back to his kingdom. Through a secret passage, he reveals Max's plot to the people and rallies them to fight. Outside the palace, the enemy approaches silently. The first in line is blinded by an arrow. Warriors descend from above, killing the enemy at the door. King Nameja and his men emerge from the palace, catching Max off guard. The Semigalians, including their wolves, fight fiercely to defend their homeland. Max's soldiers are quickly overwhelmed. As Nameja charges at Max, Laga throws a flying knife, but Max uses a nearby soldier as a shield. The soldier loses an eye and flees with Max. Nameja, unable to catch them, vows to avenge his family. The warriors celebrate their victory, but Max is captured and thrown into a muddy ditch. He fled back to the Pope in embarrassment. The Pope, praying, hides a dagger in his sleeve. Max, aware of the dagger, seizes it and demands the Pope's most formidable crusaders. The Pope agreed, and the strongest warrior was the one who had been sentenced to death. During this time, Nameja and Laga hold a traditional Latvian wedding by the sea, symbolizing their eternal bond. A month later, a large cross stands on the shore, signaling the return of the Crusaders. Nameja plans to unite all the tribes to fight against the Roman invasion. However, some tribal chieftains see this as Nameja's attempt to expand his territory. Many tribes rely on trade with the Christians and do not want war. Finally, only one chief agreed to join Nameja's camp. Some chieftains even betray Nameja, joining the enemy. As two tribes turn against each other, Max watches from afar, laughing at the infighting. The Semigalians and Vikings fight fiercely, but their battle ends in mutual destruction. A betraying chieftain realizes he has been deceived but regrets it too late. An elderly man, despite his past grudges with Nameja, saves him from an enemy's dagger but is fatally wounded. With his last breath, he urges Nameja to flee, as only he can save the nation. Nameja and a few survivors return to the city, but the fully armed crusaders approach. They set the city on fire, forcing the people out. A young practitioner tried to stop them, but was killed by a random arrow. Outnumbered, the city's fall is inevitable. As the Crusaders breach the gates, Nameja orders a retreat through a secret passage. Valdez confirms everyone's escape and floods the passage with water. After Max and his men entered the passage, they were nearly drowned in the putrid waters of the sewer. With no other option, Nameja leads his people to a sacred place known only to the kings and their advisors. It is said that this place allows communication with ancestors, but Valdez thought Nameja was no longer a strong man, so he chose to betray him and join Max. Nameja, with no other choice, decides to attack the next day. The king's ring, a symbol of power, is melted and mixed with more silver to create rings for all the people. The final battle takes place in the swamp, a familiar terrain for the Semigalians but a hellish one for the Crusaders. Nameja confronts Max in the swamp. Surrender is impossible. As fireballs roll down the hill, creating a smokescreen, Nameja's allies launch a surprise attack. The Semigalians, accustomed to fighting in the fog, move like ghosts, taking the lives of their enemies. A one-eyed soldier finds a king's ring on a body, and Max is overjoyed, believing he has the legitimate right to rule. However, he soon realizes that everyone has a ring. Nameja appears behind him and pushes him into the swamp, where he sinks forever. The Crusaders eventually conquer the Semigalia Principality after 100 years, but Nameja's spirit lives on. The film symbolizes power as a ring, which Nameja melts and distributes to the people. Only when everyone has a ring and can choose their own path can there be a brighter future.